Good afternoon and welcome to the third in the series of Pint-Sized Science webinars that we present to you as support for you and the materials that you received. Hoping that you are enjoying all of the materials and that you are finding innovative ways to use them with your students. I hope that the science lessons that we sent out in email a few days ago have been helpful. I've received some feedback from that. One group was actually working on classifying animals, and so the lesson that she received was able to fit right into her program that she was already doing with students. Today we're going to concentrate on that inquiry method that we talked about at training, and we're also going to look at those group 2 activities that you were able to choose from when you received your award. I wanted to revisit excuse me, this PowerPoint slide that we presented to you in training. I think that it's a really good way to center our focus on what our change of attitude is when we give students materials to use. We want them to be able to think innovatively and creatively about the way that they are solving problems. We also want them to have big ideas, and so using these materials could be just the start for them to become really great problem solvers and critical thinkers of the future. It's never too early to encourage those traits, and the materials that you were presented is a way for you to get started. This is another slide that we shared with you, although in a different way. I kind of condensed it so that it would all fit on one slide. But these are those questions that you can inspire the curiosity and wonder from your students. The remembering questions, what is, can you name, what's happening? Thank you. The understanding questions, can you tell me why that happened? Or could you tell someone else what happened? Applying what they've learned or what they've observed. What does that look like in a different setting? Or what does it look like when you put those things together, and what would happen if? The analyzing questions, how's this the same or different, making those comparisons. One of the groupings that we're going to talk about today is the classifying creatures, and that is what that kit is all about, is looking at animals and habitats and what is the same about those animals, what's different about those animals. And so this is a great group of questions that you can use for that particular kit, but others as well. The evaluation, can you think of a better way to do it? How would you feel if? Do you believe? Is what you discovered a good thing or a bad thing, and why? And then creating. And in training we talked about how the last step in that sunflower framework was creating something that they could share and being able to explain from their own viewpoint what the process was and what their creation or design meant to them and how they went about reaching the top of that framework platform. The next thing is going to be a video that I found on YouTube. There's actually 6 in this series that talks about how to get into inquiry-based learning in your classroom. We talked at training that it's a very different way of approaching your teaching, because if you do it at its fullest form, you are stepping very far back away from the teaching. The kids are doing their own teaching, and they're learning from each other. So we're going to listen to this teacher. You see her on the screen, and she's going to talk about how she got started and some steps she took in her own classroom that I hope will help you think about this for your own students.
Incorporating inquiry-based learning into your classroom can seem like many things. Expensive.
All right, everyone. Now that we're done playing with liquid nitrogen, we're going to build a vacuum cannon.
Too open-ended.
I made a ball of tape.
intimidating,
Can a black hole exist without an event horizon?
or perhaps even simply time-consuming.
I'm sorry, we don't have time to go over that right now.
There's actually a famous St. Bernard named Barry, and Barry has been found to have rescued about 70 people.
Inquiry-based learning doesn't have to be any of these things. In fact, inquiry-based learning is a very good thing. Research has shown that it has positive effects on learning, leading to increased motivation and deeper understanding. Oh, and students love it. But if a teacher has never done inquiry-based learning before, or it is something that is only occasionally performed in the classroom, what steps can be taken to fully integrate inquiry into a class's normal routine? Let's see how Andrea does it. Andrea here is an elementary school teacher. This week, Andrea is going to teach her grade 2 class about simple machines.
We are going to talk about the simple machines. Now,
Andrea's background, however, is not in science, and she isn't an expert in simple machines. Before she can teach her class about simple machines, she herself has to become familiar with the topic. The best place for Andrea to start is by looking at the curriculum. This will help her learn exactly what the students need to learn, and perhaps more importantly, what is not part of the grade 2 curriculum. As a teacher, Andrea has limited time, and so doing this will help her filter out what is extraneous. Now that Andrea knows what her grade 2 class needs to learn about simple machines, where can she go to learn or brush up on the content? Textbooks are of course good for this, but in this day and age, some simple online searches can get you some good results fast. Trusted YouTube channels, museum websites, and yes, even Wikipedia can all be useful. Andrea has to be careful though. Some sites like Wikipedia can often bog down topics with very high-level content that might not be relevant to the situation at hand. Andrea shouldn't forget about work colleagues and PD Day contacts she's made as good sources of info.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Melanie. I was wondering if you had some materials I could use for my activity today.
For sure, I have lots of things for you.
Once Andrea feels like she's gotten a good grasp of the content to teach, she now has to find some sort of inquiry activity for her class. Again, lots of activities and things to build can be found online, as well as through colleagues. Soon, what Andrea finds online will spark her imagination and give her ideas of how to link the content to society and the environment, which is a big component of the curriculum. Whatever she ends up finding though, Andrea might have to make her own activity modifications to fit her class's specific needs. As Andrea is searching, there are a few things that she can keep in mind to help her find an activity that is appropriate. For one, in order to save time, it's a good idea for her to search for something that students can assemble rather than for Andrea to have to assemble everything herself. Also, because teachers typically don't have big budgets, one thing Andrea can do is to find activities that don't require many materials and that can be reused from supplies Andrea already has, are available at school, or through her school board or that she can buy at a dollar store. With inquiry, something Andrea will be doing is splitting her class into small work groups of no more than 6. Andrea will have to take that into consideration when getting her supplies. Also, Andrea should make sure to design an activity that she is comfortable doing in class. Safety should be a priority. In the next segment, Andrea will introduce a series of activities that will push her students towards open inquiry. Incorporating inquiry-based learning into your classroom.
She said, I'm not the expert. You don't have to know everything about everything to do inquiry-based learning. You don't have to be able to answer all of those questions for your students. Part of inquiry-based learning is to get them to answer those questions for themselves. The second thing is she did her research. If she wasn't comfortable with her level of knowledge, she was able to go on and just get some additional information that could get the kids started, but then also encourage the students to use those same research tools to answer the questions that they may get stuck with and be able to move forward after that. And the third thing that I'd like you to get from that video is to know your standards. If you know what is expected at your grade level, perhaps even the one below you and above you, you're going to be able to structure and scaffold the activities for the students, make sure that they have the appropriate resources to be able to work towards those standards that school districts are requiring these days. We talked in training that with the sunflower module or the sunflower framework, there is no testing in that. There is no formal assessment to know if your children actually reach the level of understanding that you're hoping for. Standards, of course, have to do that. So to know those standards and know what you're going to be doing ahead of time and where you want your students to end up is going to be a valuable way for them to get there. The next thing is something that we did share again in training, and those are those 3 levels of inquiry. The structured is what we all do. I did it as a teacher. I did a lot of it as a teacher. It's where I'm standing up in front of the class and I'm giving the information to the students, and they're supposed to soak it up like a sponge. And even though that is not the way we want you to do your whole day, it is important because sometimes kids do need to know foundational knowledge before they can progress into asking their questions and doing their own investigations. So structure does play a part in inquiry-based learning, but we want you to go more towards the guided and the open. So the guided, again, is that you're giving them a provocation, and then you're letting them have the opportunity to investigate that in whatever way they want, using whatever tools and materials they think is best. And then, of course, the open is the piece de resistance in inquiry-based learning. It's where they're taking the lead and the teacher is stepping much farther back in a supportive role, making sure that they have materials, making sure they have resources, asking those guided questions and scaffolding their learning so that they are able to be successful. So tonight, we're going to look at the second group of modules that you were able to choose from. That includes the classifying creatures, the mini meteorologist, and the homes and habitats. Starting with the classifying creatures, the main concepts are there on the screen. Again, these will be included on your activity cards when you get those. But down at the bottom, this is kind of the focus of this module. It's to help the kids create math skills by sorting and classifying through their observations and their comparisons of features between animals, insects, humans, whatever type of focus that you have at that particular time. Similarities and differences are going to develop assortments and categorizations and analytical thinking that comes from kids using observation to notice those similarities and differences. This is your materials list that you've already received through your inventory. We're going to look at the activities, not so much in depth, but what I wanted to do is just kind of let you know what the focus of each of these is. So the head, thorax, and abdomen activity is just really about noticing the body parts of insect or the body parts that they have in common with insects. So to be able, this would be a good activity for sprouts, is for them to list the body parts that they have, but then also look at the body parts of one of the bugs in acrylic and see if they have some of those same body parts that they share. The magnifying glasses are going to be instrumental for them to see detail. If the weather permits, you can take those bug boxes that were included outside and collect your own insects, bring them back in, look at them with magnifying glasses, with the digital microscope that you got in your Science Sprouts kit. Be able to look at the bugs in acrylic and then make some comparisons to see what is similar, what is different. The focus on fossils, a blast from the past, is to just really let kids know that by studying fossils and then explaining what that word might mean for kids that might not have ever heard it, to what that connection is to animals that live today. Where did they come from? What did they used to be? And on the resource page that you will have access to, I've included some resources that show what some of the fossils were that were indicative to Iowa many, many, many years ago. And so you could use that as a resource to compare the fossils that you receive to maybe the pictures that you are going to find and see if they fall into any one of those categories. And kids can then, again, sort, classify, maybe make some predictions about which animal it might have been. The math skills are going to be very heavy in this. Again, the sorting and classifying. Kids do this unconsciously. They're always seeing similarities and differences, but they do it in their mind as they're watching their world and learning from what they're seeing. So it's just a concrete way to have kids do this. With the animal x-rays activity, you're going to be able to start maybe seeing some of that abstract thinking because kids can't see what's inside of an animal, but the x-rays are going to be able to give them a window into what the inside of that animal looks like. And again, characteristic comparisons and classification skills are going to be practiced throughout this activity. Something that you can also do to increase your X-ray resource is to talk to veterinarians in your local area to see maybe if they have some that they would like to share, maybe even donate to the school, and that way that you can expand the amount of animals that kids are able to look at, make comparisons, and maybe be able to create an animal when they get down to the last one on this slide, which is create a creature. So through all of these things, we're going to have them look at the body parts, the ways that animals move, what makes that animal live in that habitat, and make sure that they understand that those characteristics are a part of that animal for a reason. Up to the top, the whose teeth are these? In your box that came with that, excuse me, you have a really good lesson plan. And if you look at this, it'll give you some ideas of where to get started. I like that it gives you an overview of the kit. It will talk to you about what the objectives are, why we felt it was important for you to have this as part of your classifying creatures kit. But then it goes in and it'll give you a summary of each animal that is included in those replicas, and it'll tell it's broken down into carnivores, omnivores, and herbivores, which are new vocabulary terms for a lot of students, and it will tell you why they're placed in that grouping. It'll talk to you a lot about what that animal eats, maybe a little bit about where it lives, and why their teeth are shaped like they are. Then at the very back, it will tell you some tooth kit exercises. So it actually gives you some hands-on lessons that you can use in addition to the activity cards that we are going to send you. And it will let you kind of expand on what you can do with that box of tooth replicas. It also has a worksheet or an exercise sheet that if you want to have students collect data, you can use this as a data collection sheet. And the last page then is an actual picture of those replicas that you received in your animal teeth box that you can use in any sort of ways that you want. For sprouts, maybe you want to make it a matching game. You want to make more duplicate copies of it, cut them apart, and maybe they could use it as a matching game. Or maybe you want to have a picture of the representative animals, and they could match the tooth to the representative animal that they think it belongs to. Seedlings are going to be able to do research. They're going to be able to do more in-depth data collection. a veterinarian again, or if you live close to a community college or a university, perhaps someone from their faculty could come in and have a speech, a little talk about the different types of animals, why they eat what they eat, where they live, those kinds of things. Whatever you feel is going to be good information for your students to have with this particular unit. The last one, the Exploring Furs and Feathers, there will be a resource page that will let you identify those pieces of fur that you received. I did get an email from a teacher that not all of her furs were marked with a number. So when you get the resource page and you have the identification animals there, perhaps you can do a process of elimination. And if you do have one that isn't marked, perhaps you could use that to identify which animal it is. It's a good problem-solving activity for kids once they have that sheet, or even before, you could have them guess what kind of an animal it might belong to, and then check their prediction once you have that resource page to use. The next one is the Mini Meteorology. I will let you know that when you received this kit, you received a different Freddy the Frogcaster book than the one that you saw at training. The one that you received is Freddy and the Tornado. The Freddy the Frogcaster book, we were not able to obtain enough copies. So we substituted another one in the series. If you're interested in that series, or there's a whole bunch of Freddy the Frogcaster books that maybe you want to add to the Tornado one, and maybe you could make a library for your Mini Meteorology module just with Freddy Frogcaster books. The focus of this module is to help students measure and understand the weather. A lot of times, I think even as adults, we check in the morning on our way out the door to see how warm to dress or how cool to dress. Do we take an umbrella? Do we not take an umbrella? Do I need to send my kids to school with their snow pants, boots, hats, and gloves? Or is it going to be okay that they get by with just a jacket? So we want kids to start observing those patterns of weather and be able to create some way for them to record the data. So in your kit, we've included a lot of these different ways that you can help kids remember and document what their week is like or what their month is like as far as the weather. It goes a little bit beyond what I used to have in my preschool room. We're going to dress the teddy bear for the weather today. And that's a good start, but be able to go a little bit above that and use some of these tools to show them what is really happening in the atmosphere. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, here again are your materials. We're going to talk about your anemometer. So your anemometer is basically just a way to record wind speed. If you live where there are wind turbines are basically an anemometer, and there's one built into it. It's just much more sophisticated. So the key with your anemometer is when you get it set up is to make sure all the cups are facing in the same direction. Because if you don't, and the wind is blowing, this anemometer is not going to go around in a way that it is going to record. You'll notice that one of the cups is red. So when you put your anemometer together and you've set it outside where you can observe it, the red cup is the one that you're going to keep your eye on, because however many times it goes around in a minute, you can calculate then what the wind speed is. Now, I don't mean to insult anybody's intelligence, but I do want to show you that you should have in your kit a big washer and a little bitty washer. And if you didn't find them, look under the flaps of the box. And then you have this little screw, little bitty screw. And you want to take the base of the anemometer, and the big washer is going to go on top to keep it from wearing into the plastic. The little washer and screw you're going to put on the back. But then the pedestal is going to sit right inside of that. And so you're going to screw it right into the pedestal. And I will tell you that I tried to do this with my fingers, and you can't do it. You are going to need a Phillips head screwdriver to get it tight in there so that the pedestal doesn't wiggle. Because if the wind is blowing very fast, it's going to take some force, and so you want it to be secure. So when you get it all put together, the cups are going to sit on top like this. You want to make sure they're all in the right direction. And then this is, if you received the Homes and Habitats, the Home and Habitats module, this is a good way to use your GoPro, is because you can record this and then count them later. Or maybe you can set up your iPad or a phone or something to record it for a little while, because if the wind is blowing very fast, I don't know about you, but I would not be able to count how fast or how many times that red cup went by me. So being able to slow it down through a GoPro, a phone, an iPad, you're going to be able to get a much more accurate reading. The other thing that I found out just by playing with this is if your cups are not staying where you want them, all you have to do is just tighten this wing nut that's on the end of it, and that's going to make it fit onto that bar better, and it's going to take the force of the wind. So tighten them up, make sure that they're where you want them, and let it sit outside, and then you can record your wind speed. And it is a good idea to maybe tape this down on something. The base is not very heavy, so it's not going to withstand a really strong wind unless it's secured with something. So that is your anemometer. And so that is just a beginning way that meteorologists use a simple tool or a simple machine to record. The ones that you see on top of buildings or in meteorology labs is going to be a higher degree of technology than this one. But it gets kids the idea of, it'll give them a visual of how fast your wind is blowing where you are. So that's your anemometer. It does come with an instruction guide, and if you take a minute to read that, then you're going to be able to understand a little bit better about what other things you can do with your anemometer. The next thing is your Pocket Lab weather. And I'm not going to be able to tell you everything this thing will do. It's really going to be a matter of you taking it and spending some time with it. But I did download the free Pocket Lab weather app, and it is going to look like this. I don't see it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is what your Pocket Lab weather app looks like. And if you scroll up, the one in the center is the one that you received. It gives you a little bit of information, and then it gives you the opportunity to learn more. Oh, sorry about that. And then what I really wanted to show you, though, is I'm going to go actually into the app, and I'm going to show you what it'll do. So let me do that. Down at the bottom, it will show you some of the things that you can do with it. The black probe that you see right here, you can put that down in liquids. So if you want to compare hot and cold, or you want to see how cold the snow is outside, or how warm the rainwater is in your rain gauge, or you want to be able to see what the temperature is of the water faucet compared to the water in a water bottle, or an ice cube as it's melting. Whatever you can think of, that probe is going to be able to help you with that, and it's going to record on the screen what you see. So let me, if you'll bear with me just a minute, I'm going to actually get into the app, and I'm going to get it downloaded here. Hold on just a moment. Let's see. So the Pocket Lab has a button that you're going to push on the side, and then if it's charged up, which I thought it was, those lights are going to blink. I had it plugged into my computer all day yesterday, so I was hoping it was not to worry. I have the cord. So it comes with your computer cord here that we're going to plug in. Okay. You want to get the other Chromebook? Jolie's going to assist me here. We'll get the other Chromebook up, and we'll be able to get it plugged in so we can get to the app and I can show you what those icons are. Sorry about that. Thank you, dear. Okay. Okay, so there we go. So it'll plug in just like that, and those lights should work. That's okay, there we go. I just saw it blink. Okay, so as that's kind of recharging, okay, and can we get to this from here? The graphing. I forgot, do we? Like if I hold this, we're going to edit this part out.
Yeah. Okay, this is, well, because you're on the website.
Website, yes.
So we want to be, did you check it on this one to make sure that this one has the Pocket Lab? Because not all of them do.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Okay.
Probably. So this one might not have the Pocket Lab app downloaded to it.
Oh, because I got to go into the App Store.
Well, let me see if we can, because sometimes, because of the way these are set up, we can't always just download what we
Okay.
want because,
And I had it on mine and I forgot to bring
well,
it.
some of them, because the ones that we
had
took
a
to
training.
hopefully he'll let it do it. See, this is the problem.
Okay. All
We
right.
have to,
All right. Rats.
well, you know what? We can do it with my phone
Oh.
because I can download to my own phone. You know what I
okay.
mean?
Or I could do it to mine too, I suppose.
Doesn't matter. We can. I wonder if I already had it on here. I can't remember. Okay, it's downloading.
Okay.
And that's the one where when you're on that app that you lay it on there
Yes.
and then it syncs to it.
Yes. So we're going to downsize the size of this, Aaron. Sorry.
It's all good. That's why we're doing it like this.
Network, that's why I couldn't download, or?
Well, yeah, these are used in the Science Center with our program staff, and so we can't, Jolie says we can't always.
Our IT person has to approve it. We can't just download whatever we want. Okay, so
Okay.
place
All
it
right.
on there.
All right, yeah.
We'll do that first because then it has to sync to it.
You wanna show how that syncs, or not? Or just did it on camera?
You can just mimic it, I guess, since we already did it.
All right. All right,
One
so,
second. We're still rolling, so if you wanna go in.
oh, okay.
If you wanna start it on
So
a sentence.
I have the app here that you can download for free. It is a free app on the App Store, so you can download it to an iPad or, as you see, I've got it on an iPhone. And after the Pocket Lab has had an opportunity to turn on and hopefully it's charged, then you can lay it on top of the screen, and you see how the bottom is ticking right along. So what it's doing is it is creating a graph of whatever meteorological phenomena you want to record. This one, as you see at the top, says internal temperature. So I'm going to lay this down just for a minute because I want to just really talk to you about what these icons are up here at the top of the screen. And this, for me, when I was investigating this, was crucial into me understanding what all this can do. And I've probably just scratched the surface. But this gear icon up here at the top, if you push that, it's going to have a drop down of different things that you can do as options for your battery or for your Pocket Lab. So that's one thing, and that's at the gear there at the top. So if we go then next to this like graph line, the squiggle line, if you open that up, then you have the opportunity to do one graph, two graphs, or three graphs. Right now, it's highlighted in temperature or internal temperature. But if I want to do a three graph thing, all I have to do is, let's say, I want to see what the air pressure is. I want to see, yes, I want to see what, hang on, done. Maybe I want to see what the light intensity is. And maybe I want to see what, you push three graph, and then those are our choices. You push three graph, the ones that you want, push done up here in the corner, and there are my three graphs with the Pocket Lab. So it's recording all three things at the same time. Now, if you see all these numbers and things, and you're thinking, what's a lux? And I don't want Celsius. I don't know how to convert Celsius, or I don't want to convert Celsius. If you go up here to the ruler that's on the right side, then you're going to be able to switch from meters to feet, from meters to feet down on altitude. Down here is where you're going to switch from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And so all of those things then are at your disposal. Whatever you want to record it in is going to be your choice. So let's say we want to go back and we're going to, maybe we want to go back here and we don't want to do three graphs anymore. Maybe we want to just do one graph. So we're going to touch one graph. Light intensity is a good one. Let's just do that one. And then over here, if we want to do a different way of gathering that information, then all we have to do is just touch it, and it's going to switch. And then our graph, after we hit done, is going to look a lot different. Now, the cool thing about this, that red button at the bottom, is you can make a recording of your graph. So if you want to hit that, now it's recording it. And you can let this play out as long as you would like. What it's doing is it's telling us that right now our light intensity is pretty standard. It's not really doing a lot of rising or lowering, except right there. And then when you want to stop it, just like with a phone, now two other icons now appear down here in this corner, in the right-hand corner. It says clear, which is what it says. If you don't want that graph anymore, you just clear it. But if you press the angle or the 3 points here, then you get an option of how you want to share your data. You can do a graph snapshot or you can do a group share. So we're going to do share data, and then it gives you an opportunity. You can send it to your computer, You could send it to an iPad. You could send it to, if each student has their own account at school, you can send it to them and they can do their own comparisons with that. But it's a good way for you to keep data over a long period of time. And you can, at the end of the month, look back at what it was doing the first of the month, or from month to month, or the beginning of the year to the end of the year. However you want to share that data so that it is in a way to compare, to contrast, to make predictions, and to be able to see weather patterns. So those are the main things that I wanted to show you here on the, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this, and we're just going to clear recording. All right, now there's one other icon up here at the top, and it's like this little gas speedometer thing. Now, excuse me, what this will let you do is to let you decide how many times per second you want it to record. So if I say that and there's a little dot here that you just slide over, and then if we do done, up here in the corner, then that's what it's going to look like. As compared to, if we hit that and we slide it back, let's go down a little bit and hit done, then that's what our graph is going to look like. So you have a wide range of choices in how often that data is graphed on your app. So that is, and that's just the beginning of what this will do. Again, you saw with the graph line, all of the choices that you have that you can record. And it will give the kids a deeper understanding of what weather really is. It's not just rainy, snowy, windy, cloudy. It will give them some much deeper information about what that is able to do. So hopefully that's going to give you a better starting point of using your Pocket Lab, and to be able to say, this is what we're going to decide what we want to graph, and let them get really into that discovery and that investigation. The next couple of slides is going to talk about light waves. And this is where one of those things you don't have to be an expert in. I'm not an expert in. In fact, I've asked Jolie to stand by because she, being a science major and having taught science at a high school level for so long, that she understands this intuitively. I, on the other hand, as we talked about in training, my science background is read the text, take a test. Read a text and take the test. And my background in science is very rudimentary as far as the depth of knowledge that I received as a student. Jolie, this is what she says is her jam. I mean, she just goes all out for this. But what you see on your screen, that graph, is an example of how light moves in waves. And your cards that you're going to receive, there is a great deal of background knowledge on this and background information. So again, you don't have to be the expert, but to have a basic understanding of this, it will be helpful. So as you see, between those two straight lines, there are the rainbow colors, as we call them. And the way that the light waves move in that particular graph is the ones that we can see. So like when you see a rainbow, you can see those colors. But because the energy from the sun is electromagnetic radiation, it doesn't always move in the same wavelength. Some of them are shorter, some of them are longer. And so as you see there on the screen, if you put all those colors together, you're going to have white light. But if you see the ones that are spread out, The red ones, called infrared, the ones that are past what we can see, when you hear the word infrared, that's what we're talking about. It's those light waves that we cannot see. The other side of that scale is the ultraviolet light. So when you talk about sunscreen protecting your skin from UV light, that's what we're talking about. It's at a side of the spectrum that our eyes cannot comprehend. So you received some materials that is going to help students examine what ultraviolet light is and what all the things that it is responsible for. So if you see there at the top, the shortwave ultraviolet light is used to kill bacteria. It can speed up chemical reactions, and it can be used to identify some fluorescent minerals. The short UV can pass through glass and most plastics, but the longer wave ones cannot. So in your materials, you received the UV detector. The UV detector is a bottle, a plastic bottle, that inside are those UV detecting beads. And then there's a piece of cardstock in there that kind of has a graph to kind of match the color of the beads to how much UV that container has been exposed to. So when you are using this, you don't necessarily even have to put it outside. You can use it in a window, or you could use it under the lights in your room, or you could use it in anything that is going to emanate light. And the way that the UV detector works is those beads start out white, but because they've been exposed to that UV light that we can't see, the beads will see it for us. And so depending on how dark purple they get, you use the graph, and that will let you know how much UV radiation you've been exposed to, or at least the device has been exposed to. These beads can be reused over and over and over again. So if you want to put it in the same spot for a repetitive number of times, and data collect what it is, like what time it goes out or in the spot, how long it's left, how dark the purple is according to the scale that's inside. You can come back and start all over the next day. Those UV beads are going to be able to be used a lot of different times for a lot of data collection. And there's a lot of resources on the internet that will also go into deeper explanation about that. And so this is just a way to get you started and what it is, what it does. The next thing that you got is your polarizing filters. You should have had 4 in an envelope in your kit. So polarizing filters are used in sunglasses. You hear the term, your sunglasses are polarized. They are also used in car windshields, anything that you don't want light to get through. So the way that it was explained to me is that those squares of polarizing filter will or will not let light through depending on which way they're turned. So the overlap that you see on the screen, if you are experimenting with those squares and turning them opposite each other or layering them in different ways, you're going to get a different effect based on which way they're turned and which way they're letting the light waves through. So a great way to give students an opportunity to investigate and to let them see what happens when they're laid on top of each other differently. A great thing, if you happen to have it, is to use these with a light box or a light like I had the last webinar, something where they can actually see the changes with a light source behind it. The other thing that you received, and this is kind of where you're going to introduce an art facet to your meteorology, is your nature print paper. So the bottom picture there, you'll see the items that this particular person used to create their picture. The key of advice is to not let the solar paper out of the package until you're ready to use it, because once it's exposed to light, that the chemicals in that paper are going to start to break down. But as you see in that bottom picture, they've put a picture of a bird. It looks like it's on a transparency, real objects like a feather and leaves and pine cones. And you lay it down on top of that paper, put it out in a light source, and then as the light is causing a chemical reaction with the chemicals on the paper, it's going to leave a white shadow. And so you can have kids experiment with, if I leave it for 30 minutes, as opposed to leaving it for an hour or all day, and see if they get different types of shadowing based on the time that it's left out in light. So that's a way that you can incorporate the art into STEM. The other thing that you received is your solar bag. And a lot of people, me included, had never seen a solar bag before. And the teachers of the last couple of trainings asked if they could get it out and see what it does. And I was just excited about it as they were, because it was a new experience for me as well. So I got this video to just kind of show you what it does and some ways that you can expect it to react. And they also give you some tips in the video about how and where to use it. The teachers that came to the training in Des Moines at the Science Center, the last one, had a great time outside, and I wish I would have taken my camera outside to record them. I think they were getting an idea of how much fun it would be for their students. You did see in the video, it did suggest to have a wide open space. The first time that we took it out at a training, we did not have a very wide open space. It did get caught on some trees, and it is very, very thin. So if you do have it around trees, bushes, things like that, there is a very definite possibility that it's going to get a hole in it, and it might react differently when you take it back out, whether or not you tape it. But what's happening is it's a good way for kids to see that the air inside of that solar tube is getting heated, and heat rises. And with it being so flexible, they can also see wind patterns and see how it's modulating according to the wind stream that is guiding it. A great interactive. I think kids are going to have a great time with it. You don't always have to do it when it's sunny and warm outside. Take it outside on a winter's day and see if it reacts the same way as it does when it's the beginning of the school year or the end of the school year. Take it outside when it's cool compared to when it's medium 40s, 50s, maybe again when it's 60s, 70s, and just make sure that you're recording all of that data to make sure that when they come back and check in on the experiment the next time, they've got that data to refer to, and they can make those comparisons that we want them to. So the next module that we're going to go into is your Homes and Habitats one. The focus of this is to challenge students to think about different animals and why they live where they live. What adaptations do they have to be able to withstand the heat where they live or the cold where they live, and be able to compare living and non-living things in that environment to see how it is going to benefit or sometimes even be detrimental to those animals' survival. So here are your materials that you received. And this video is going to be on the resource page as a way to teach children, your students, about the impact of pollution. We aren't going to watch all of it, but I did want to kind of give you a kind of an insight about what it is about before you put it into your lesson plan. But lily litter right there is a ladybug. And she learns that not only putting trash down a sewer drain, but also putting leaves and sticks down a sewer drain is going to impact the water on through that process. So we're going to watch just a little bit of this, and we're going to just give you an idea of what it's about.
It was a bright summer's day. And early that morning, a ladybug named Lily woke up yawning. The air was fresh and the sunshine was beaming, but it appeared that people had forgotten about cleaning. She noticed mess everywhere, and she began to wonder, what would happen if this waste and litter went from the streets into the gutter? Then some old soapy water suddenly went splash, pushing Lily into the stormwater drain with a crash. As Lily moved forward, she ran into some troubles, and she was greeted with a wall of old soapy bubbles. Her next challenge was old food wrappers, bottles and cans. Then some old garden waste to remove with her hands. Lily burrowed in deep and pulled with her might. And she left the old drain and flew into the light. Lily looked at the rubbish everywhere. She could tell why the wildlife and plant life weren't doing so well. Looking sickly and sad by the edge of the creek, a river redgum named Harry began to speak. Harry said he could fix things, but he doesn't feel strong. But together they could do it and passed Lily a wand. Lily's wand is amazing. She cleans everything in sight. And Harry decided a song could help teach what is right.
If you're getting rid of squishy waste, make sure it goes in a safe place. The water that you use to wash your car doesn't have to go that far. You can pour it down the sink or give your garden a nice big drink. Never hose down your driveway or gutter. This will only create environmental clutter. The water that you see when it rains, it's all that you go in a stormwater drains. Animals live in our rivers and bays. This is why we need clean waterways. Sweep your driveway and collect the leaves and put in the green litter bin with these. Flowers, twigs, and mini garden things can all go straight into the bin. Litter can be small, so look all around and make sure that you never throw your waste on the ground. All it takes is a little rain to push this litter straight into the stormwater drain. Because that's not just where it will stay. It could end up in the waterways. The water that you see when it rains, it's all that you go in a stormwater drain. Animals live in our rivers and bays. This is why we need clean waterways. This is why we need clean waterways. This is why we need clean waterways.
So that's just a little bit. There's not much more of it, but it will go with your activity on pollution and how to protect environments from it, and why it's important to prevent. It might lead into a great classroom field trip, and actually do some hands-on pollution removal. But it's I think a catchy little video that kids might enjoy, and might be able to hook them into the idea that the fish and all of the animals that depend on the water as their habitat are impacted by what we do as humans, and how to prevent that. What are some other ways that those things could be taken care of? So as far as your materials, I wanted to show you just a little bit of the GoPro. Again, I have never owned a GoPro, so I did my own research. On the slide, you'll see the information of where to go to get the user manual. This is going to be part of your resource page, so it will be listed there. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you a few of the features so that if you've never owned one, you don't know where to start, like myself, that it will at least get you going and be able to give you some comfort about how to use it. So what I wanted to, the main things are, I just went to the user manual and I kind of pulled out what I thought would be useful for me if I was using this in a classroom for the first time. The first thing that the manual says is that the battery is going to charge to about 100% in 3 hours. So if you are going to do, if you get up on Monday morning and say, hey, we're going to go to get the GoPro and we're going to go outside and see what's going on, it might not be the best idea unless you know that the GoPro's been plugged in and that it is fully charged. Because again, 3 hours is a long time. What I wanted to show you too is, and this will tell you things that I learned through trial and error. On the side of the box that it is attached to, there is these icons that tell you how to get it off of the box, because you may not want to use the box as a stand. You might want to be able to be more mobile with it. So I'm a learner that I have to do it to see. So there's a little thing that you flip up right there. It's what locks it on. You see that? So that has to be up. And then there's, at that same place, there's two little levers that you want to pinch, and then you're going to push it forward. And that's going to release it from the box in case you want to take it with you and be more mobile. So that's lesson 1 that I had to learn. The next lesson is how to get it out of its case. Maybe you don't want to use it in its case. So the front of it is here. You want to look here at the back, and you're going to unsnap it, and you have to use some force. I was afraid I was going to break it the first time I did this. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong way. So you reach from the front, and it just opens up like that. See, I was going to be sitting and wrestling with it for quite some time. And so what that does then is it leaves a little flap. And so from the front, hang on a second, you pull down the back, and then from the front, you can just push it out. And then you can take it with you outside and maybe have it be more useful to you. Inside of your box is the charging cord, of course, but it does also give you some other attachments that have sticky on the back. So if you want to, let's say, put this on the side of a building and attach the GoPro to it, it's going to stay there, hopefully, if you press it on hard enough. Or maybe you want to set it on top of a bird bath that you may have on your school property, or you want to put it on the side of a tree, or whatever this will stick to. You could attach your GoPro to it, and it will stay there for as long as you want it to. Some other things that might be useful to know is how to turn it on. So you want to press, there's a button on the side that says mode. And if you just press that, then it's going to go on if it's fully charged, which I thought it was. I had those plugged into my computer all day yesterday. It's going to make a beeping sound when it comes on so that you're going to be able to know for sure that it is charged. Hold on just a second. Let's see if that works. Okay, let me plug it in. So that's another good lesson. So if you need to plug it in, on the opposite side of the mode button is a little door that'll open up, and inside then you're going to see places that you can put an SD card or you can plug it in. Oh, I've got to plug this into my computer. Don't think that's going to work, because it's got to be plugged into a computer. So anyway, this will plug into your computer to power up. And again, the back of it is going to have your display once it turns on. To power it off, you just do the same thing. You just hold the mode button down and it will turn off. And then you'll lock this back. The cool thing about this is it can be operated with your touch. So you can, the commands on the back will show you how to set it to what you want it to do, or you can even use it by voice command. And the user guide will tell you how to do that. On my iPad, I do have that downloaded. And I will show you what that looks like. So your GoPro webpage is going to, and again, this is a free app. So it's going to go through all of the things that you need to know. And on this PowerPoint, I have tried to give you page numbers for some of the important things that I think will be helpful for you to get started. So again, you can use it to capture video, photos, you can do time-lapse photos, and it tells you all of those kinds of things. You can use a burst photo where it'll take it and it'll look like it's in motion. So all of these things are on the free app, and this is where I got my information for this today. You can play back your content on the touch display of the actual GoPro. You can do it to your computer, your TV, your smartphone or tablet. You can operate it through the app remotely by downloading the app on the smartphone or tablet. You can use full camera, live previews. You can do playback or share the content. And you can go to the GoPro app and it'll walk you through how to do any or all of those things should you choose to do so. Now, after you connect to the app for the first time, you can do it through the Connect menu on the camera itself. So after you get on there, put your identification in there, that you can do it with just the GoPro itself. There are a couple of numbered steps there to help you with that, but again, it's all in the free app. If you go to page 39 and you scroll through the menu of the app, it's going to tell you how to take really good photos and videos. So if I will scroll through here just a minute. Okay, so you can set up to do quick capture. You can do time lapse. It'll tell you how to stop recording. The next page there is going to tell you how to do date and time if you want to have that information on your pictures or your videos. It will also tell you how to delete it off because the SD card is not going to hold hours and hours and hours and hours of video. So you would need to switch that over to some other type of memory if you are intending on keeping that data for very long. And so the user guide is very, very useful. If you choose to do the time-lapse photo, you can capture a series of photos at 0.5-second intervals. So if you want to do photos of any activity, like watching a bird at the bird bath, or watching a bird build a nest in the tree, or a raccoon that's coming through your playground at night, or whatever you want to do it, you can use it through a long time frame, and it's not continuously recording and using up your memory or using up the battery. Remember, at training we said that the GoPro is waterproof up to 33 feet. So hopefully you're not having children play in 33 feet deep water. But if you have a pond or some type of water near you, then by all means put it in there and just let the kids after a while see what's going on under that water. You don't have to have any additional housing. It doesn't have to be in its frame. As long as all of the doors are shut, the mode, the battery pack, everything is closed up tight, you can just set this in water. One teacher at a training said that it would be good to put in their goldfish tank over the weekend and kind of see what the fish do when they're not there watching them. And so you can come up with all different kinds of ways to do water research that kids might not be able to do otherwise. The last piece of advice is on page 57 to 59. It's going to tell you how to use all of these mounting materials to get the picture or the videos that you're really wanting, and to be able to see what it is that you're putting it out there for. So all of those things go together to do your GoPro. The possibilities are endless, and I can speak for Jolie. I know that I'll be very interested to see some of the creative ways that you and your students come up with using the GoPro. She did have one of her Making STEM Connections people post to the Making STEM Connections Facebook the other day and show how they used their GoPro. And Jolie, I'm not really sure, do you remember what they did with their GoPro?
Yes.
I'm going to have Jolie step in and share that.
I'll just step in.
Yes.
So what they did is they took a plastic bag, like a Ziploc bag, and they had drawn on the outside of that plastic bag the water cycle. So there was water in the bottom of the bag, and they showed that as being the liquid water. And then they drew on the bag evaporation going into clouds, and then the clouds precipitating. And they had a camera aimed at the bag so that they were recording that cycle happening inside of the bag as it was taped to the window. So they could take a picture once every 30 or 60 seconds or however they had it set up, and then they could watch a time lapse of the water cycle happening in the bag.
And that would go along with the mini meteorology. Yes. If your children are old enough and can understand what that all means, it's a good way. I thought it was a very creative way to use their GoPro. So thanks, Jolie. All right. So then the next thing that you have in your homes and habitats is your model magic. And I was able to find these pictures on actually the Model Magic website of ways that you can have kids reach that top level of our sunflower framework and use it to create habitats or homes and be able to share that with other people. So the ones that you see here where it's wrapped around toilet paper tubes and paper towel tubes, maybe you could use that in your investigating trees activities. Maybe they could use it to replicate a tree, and the tubes inside are going to give it some foundation to make it more sturdy. And you can have that begin to be the beginning of their creative sample. The other one is the diorama, and you can actually glue them, let them dry, let them make their formation, and then glue that into a box of some sort, and they can then create their own habitat based on whatever animal or whatever habitat you've been talking about. This would be a really good way as well to introduce that art into your Homes and Habitats unit. The next creations that I found on their website was a mask. It doesn't have to be a mask like this. Maybe they want to replicate the face of an animal. And they can use it by just letting it dry. It suggests at least 24 hours, and then using watercolors or washable kids paint to paint it. And so again, they're able to use an art component into their creativity, into what they've learned about homes and habitats. The other model magic idea is to do abstract shapes or designs. While the model magic is moist, you can press it onto surfaces, and you want to be sure that it's something that will not stick to it, because model magic could leave a residue. But you let it dry and then just glue them onto a piece of paper. Here they've done an ocean habitat. You can, there at the bottom it says you could press bubble wrap into model magic and fish, and then embellish it with lace texture seashells. So these are just a few of the ideas that you can incorporate that model magic into your unit. So this is going to be a little video that's going to talk to you about how to go from being a teacher-driven classroom into a student-driven classroom. And we talked about this at training, that it's really hard to let go of some of that control. You don't know what it's going to look like. You don't know how chaotic it's going to get. You don't know what mess is going to be a result. But this is going to hopefully give you a sense of calm about relinquishing some of your power, if you will, in your students' learning, and giving it to them so that they come away with far more powerful memories and experiences than lots of things that we can design for them.
I opened it up and there was a root inside.
What's exciting about the inquiry model is that we go far and above what the curriculum expectations are. Kids are invested in their learning and they're able to transfer and apply what they're learning in school to the real world.
Inquiry-based learning allows the students to be the thinkers. Teachers begin their lesson with an idea of where they want to end in mind, but really give the students the opportunity to drive it to that point. So your job, keep working through your procedure. When you all agree, I'll come back and check in with you.
We have guided inquiry, where teachers are guiding students through the curriculum.
Okay, find that 5 milliliters.
And then making a shift into student-driven inquiry, where students use that as prior knowledge and build their own inquiries around that. We want them to be building the foundation for higher level inquiries starting right when we have them in kindergarten.
And once someone finds something, make sure that you tell the rest of the paleontologists.
We found the skull.
Oh, you found the skull?
The teachers developing the guided inquiry model based on the curriculum, but then the students are shaping where they want to go with it.
We're going to go through our lab sheet quickly, and then we're going to get into our experimental groups. They were told that 2 scientists had a mix-up in their lab. They had some seeds, they had some eggs, and now they don't know which are which. The students had the opportunity to decide what they thought would be helpful experiments for us to get to our answer. Instead of opening with a bunch of information and facts and details, the students are given a problem, and then they're the ones who get to drive the experiments.
We're trying to see which one's eggs and which one's seeds, but we don't know. So we're trying to figure out strategies that we can do. We make our steps, and then we test and see what happens. We've been planting them, and we think the seeds will grow and the eggs won't. I think they'll get bigger. Yeah, so once they get bigger, it would like crack open and then...
Teachers are guiding with questions to really get students thinking and learning how to question themselves.
How might that help us figure out which are the eggs and which are the seeds, floating or sinking?
I might think the eggs are heavier than seeds. I like doing it this way because you get to touch what you're actually doing instead of just looking at it.
We started with the inquiry model in science, and as we started to see students getting excited about finding answers to deeper level questions, we saw the power and how that could be implemented throughout the school day.
If you grab a tube of paint, there's no real connection to the science behind making that paint. I want them to see that art is everywhere, science is everywhere, math is everywhere. Hey, we are making paint out of household items today.
We started in the art room, following every step of the recipe.
Kids need background knowledge and some conceptual understanding of things.
How much salt do we need?
A quarter cup.
A quarter cup. So how many tablespoons is that?
4.
4.
The next step is, what do I want to wonder about now? How do I want to adjust this?
You have to form your questions so that you're not taking over their creative process, but helping that creative process. How can you make this paint fit your needs as an artist? As a scientist, how am I going to change or modify this paint so that it works? So I want you to test that and remember to document what you did.
We wanted to change the texture because ours was a bit too lumpy for our liking. And we added a lot of ingredients.
For the inquiry to be successful, the question has to be appropriate. And so we really had to teach students what questions would work, how to model them.
My question that I had is how can I get this to be in thinner paint so I can have like one straight line so it doesn't splatter everywhere.
The exciting piece of learning this way is that we don't always know what the outcome will be. It's a lot of risk involved in allowing your students to kind of just do some discovery learning on their own.
I learned that if you're making paint, use a liquid substance to make it thinner, but if you mix too many of the wrong things, it might just blow up.
I think this is pretty good.
We want kids to be critical thinkers, to be problem solvers. Kids are getting to dig deep into the cause and effect relationships that occur in every field. When we open that up, it just empowers them to love learning.
We really don't have a limit. We get to learn how to do this stuff with our own ideas. It took a lot of time, but we did it.
So I hope from that video that kind of gets you excited about using your materials in messy ways, creative ways, and getting kids out of their chairs and helping them to see that there is power in making decisions and power in making mistakes. The students talked about they wanted to figure out how could they make their paint thinner. He also knew that if he put things together wrong, it could explode. Not that that maybe is a valuable possibility, but it's in his mind a possibility. So the video was intended to get you to see that you can make your whole day this way should you choose. I understand the restrictions that you're under, the responsibilities you have to meet, but for an art teacher to be able to open his classroom up to giving kids hands-on materials to make their paint is awesome. Those kids are going to remember that for a long, long time. And as one of the children in the video said, we get to touch the stuff. It's not just someone saying to me, today we're going to learn about paint. We're going to see what happens when we mix yellow and red paint, or we're going to see what happens when we mix green and blue paint. They're making it, they're being a part of that process, and that's what we hope for you and your students, is that the materials that you received are going to be that gateway into getting kids excited about learning, taking ownership of their learning, and begin to ask those I wonder questions that we had you do at training. What do they want to know about these materials? What can they do? What can I make them do differently? And so that is the whole purpose of Pint-Sized Science, is to get you excited, to get your students excited about inquiry-based learning. Thank you for your time today. We have one more webinar after this. It's going to cover those educational components of careers that you can help kids see could be in their future based on the activities that you're having them do with the Pint-Sized Science materials. So we'll talk about those opportunities for careers as they grow older. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again next time. This is Laurie. Happy learning.